שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone. It is wonderful for us to be together on this Shabbat. It is very hard to believe that we are going to be entering May next week. And one of the reasons why it's hard to believe that we're going to be entering May next week is everybody's starting to get the summer itch. I don't know if you've started to feel it, like the weather's been getting warmer and everybody's been finding their way to get outside, plan vacations. And one of the things that I am reminded of is Shabbat is that time for us to not only slow down, but also take a moment to realize that the moment that we start making so many plans during the summer is a moment that those plans become more work than the vacation that you're trying to have. So all of us will take the next hour or so to stop any other plan, stop any other preparation, and just be here in the moment, be in a place to support one another, to sing, to celebrate, because I know that there are some April birthdays in here and there's other things to celebrate, and to experience that joy of Shabbat itself. So we welcome Shabbat with our candle lighting on page 120. I'd like to invite Michelle Bruman to light our Shabbat candles.
Hey, we upgraded. This is great. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lahadlik ner shel Shabbat.
Amen.
Shabbat shalom.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat. We turn to the section of our service that we call Kabbalat Shabbat, songs in which we can receive Shabbat, in which we can express joy for Shabbat and acknowledge the wonders and creations and the awesomeness, the AWE-someness of our lives. We continue with Lehuna Ranana on page 130. Lehuna Ranana, Lehuna Ranana, Lehuna Ranana, Ladonai. Lehuna Ranana, Lehuna Ranana, Lehuna Ranana, Ladonai. Naria, Naria, Litzori, Shenu, Lekanafa, Nahabitoda. Naria, Naria, Litzori, Shenu, Izmir, Naria, Lo. Lehuna Ranana, Lehuna Ranana, Lehuna Ranana, Ladonai. Lehuna Ranana, Lehuna Ranana, Lehuna Ranana, Ladonai. Naria, Naria, Litzori, Shen, Nikadmafa, Nahabitoda. Naria, Naria, Litzori, Shen, Izmir, Naria, Lo. Lehuna Ranana, Lehuna Ranana, Lehuna Ranana, Ladonai. Lehuna Ranana, Lehuna Ranana, Lehuna Ranana, Ladonai. So, what does it mean to be in partnership? When we ask that question, I'm going to ask that question. You're invited to respond. What does it mean to be in partnership? Commune with another. Work together.
Towards the same goal.
Towards the same goal.
Understand the same goal.
Understand the same goal. What about it? Contract. So, we talk a lot about how we are in partnership with God. And with any partnership, it goes both ways. With L'chadodi, when we are greeting the Shabbat bride, we are literally saying Shabbat is the partner to God. So much so that all the different emanations, all the different expressions of God are manifest from Shabbat. So when we come together each and every Shabbat and we welcome the Shabbat bride, what we are doing is we are consciously choosing to welcome, or consciously choosing to be in partnership with each other, be in partnership with God, and to choose to commit to one another And what did you say, Sarah? With the same goal in mind. And that same goal in mind is to treat each other with the same amount of divinity and dignity as you would want yourself. So we are in a welcome Shabbat with words of Lecha Dodi, page 138, 139. We will be singing verses 1, 2, 5, and 9. I'll ask the congregation to rise when we get to verse 9, and then we will take a moment also, in addition to greeting our Shabbat bride, to greet one another and wish each other a Shabbat Shalom. Page 138, 139. שמור וזכור בדיבור אחד, השמיענו אל המיוחד, אדוני אחד ושמו אחד, ושמו תפארת וליתי לה 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 לה, לך דודי לקראת קלה, פני שבת לקבלה, לך דודי לקראת קלה, פני שבת לקבלה. Shabbat lechu v'nelcha ki mikor haberacha mirosh meged b'nesucha sof ma'aseh b'machshavat hi la 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 lecha dodi likrat kala p'nei shabbat nekabala lecha dodi likrat kala p'nei shabbat nekabala. Verse 5, Hitoreri, Kiva Ore, Kumi Ori, Ori, Shidaberi, Kivod Adonai Alai, la Chadodi, Likrat Kala, Pene Shabbat Nekabala, La Chadodi, Likrat Kala, Pene Shabbat Kabbalah. Please rise. Bo'i v'shalom, ateret b'hala, gam b'simcha u'v'sohora, toch emunei am segula, bo'i chala, bo'i chala. Lechadoti, Ligrat Kala, Pene Shabbat Kabbalah. Lechadoti, Ligrat Kala, Pene Shabbat Kabbalah, la 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 la. Lechadoti, Ligrat Kala, Pene Shabbat Kabbalah. Lechadoti, Ligrat Kala, Pene Shabbat Kabbalah. We remain standing for words of Baruch, page 146. Yalalai, lai, lai, 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 yalalai, lai, lai. Barehu et Adonai, Amevorach. Baruch Adonai, Amevorach, Leolam Vaed, Leolam Vaed. Yalalai, lai, lai, 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 yalalai, lai, lai. Please be seated. So a couple weeks ago, in Kulanu, our learners had the opportunity to make night lights. We have a friend in the community who is a local glass artist, and the kids got to decorate glass, and then she took the glass and she, glass blowing, put it together, and then put together and attached it to a nightlight. So every kid has a Jewish nightlight. Jonah got his Jewish nightlight last week. And he got really frustrated when he plugged it into the wall because it wasn't turning on. And he's like, Daddy, it's not working. And I said, did you screw the bulb a little bit tighter? And he's like, no, I didn't screw the bulb a little bit tighter. So we screwed the bulb just a little bit. And it was just enough for it to start flickering. And it was like, tighten a little bit more. And then it stayed. There's this prayer that we do called Ma'ariv Aravim that says, blessed are you, Adonai, our God, who speaks evening into being. What that prayer is really talking about is the transition of time between light to light flickering to darkness. And each step of the way requires some of our own work and intentionality. When it is light outside, we are alive, we are awake, we are getting things done. In the evening, we get a little more wind down. I don't know about you. I like to go home and watch television or do whatever. Some people like reading books. Our lights are flickering then. Because the lights are still on, some of us dim them. And then we turn off the lights. We often think about the cycle of time to be very, very quickly, go very, very quickly. It's cyclical, it just keeps going and going and going and going and going and going. But what we fail to recognize is that the cycle of time is actually incremental. And we're walking along with it. So we literally are taking the moment to walk with time and allow time to not be guided by, not allow time to guide us, but for us to actually be the ones that are in control of and guide time. And that's a lot of power. That's a lot of responsibility. Baruch atah Adonai ha'ma'ariv ha'ravim. Blessed are you, Adonai, who brings on evening. We rise together for words of the Shema on page 152. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad Baruch Shem Kivod Malchuto Leolam Vahed. Please be seated. ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך וחיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך וקשרתם להות על ידיך וחיו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים אני אדוני אלוהיכם. This week's Torah portion is a double portion, and we'll talk a little bit about that later. And within this double portion contains something called the Holiness Code, which we will also talk about a little bit later. But within the Holiness Code is a listing of commandments. And many people say that the Holiness Code, which is in the book of Leviticus, the heart of our Torah, contains a rendition of the Ten Commandments. And there's a lot of truth in that. I would add that it's not just a rendition of the Ten Commandments, but it's actually an expansion of them. These are commandments about not standing idly by, protecting the widow, the orphan, the stranger, not placing a stumbling block before the blind. All of these things are phrases and statements and commandments that oftentimes we say, but we overlook. One of the things that I love about Judaism is Judaism can serve as a blueprint for living a rich, meaningful, values-filled life. And it gives us tools and strategies to engage with a world that takes us back to our days in Egypt, where we are in bondage weighed down by things that are not our own, enslaved to ideas and concepts and paradigms, sometimes fearful of what's going to come next, sometimes with that desire to be hidden or in hiding. But when we get to the Michamocha, we remind ourselves that this is a prayer of celebration for a moment in time in which we all collectively came together and said we are free. And if our ancestors could take that moment of celebration and have a taste of freedom then, there's no reason why we too can't be at the shores of the sea celebrating redemption as well. Michamocha on page 158. Ya baba bim bim bam, ya baba bim bam, ya baba bim bim bam, ya baba bim bam, ay 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 ay, ya baba bim bam, ay 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 ay, ya baba bim bam, Michamocha ba'elim Adonai, Michamocha nedar b'kodesh, Morat hilot o sefele, Morat hilot o sefele, Ma'alechotecha ra'u v'necha, Okei hayam lifnei Moshe u'Miriam, Ze'eli, Anu ve'amru, Adonai hilot le'olam va'ed, Ya baba bim bim bam, ya baba bim bam, ya baba bim bim bam, ya baba bim bam, ay 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 ay, ya baba bim bam, ay 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 ay, ya baba bim bam. We often talk about the Hashkivenu as a prayer of comfort to protect us from all that we need to be protected from. But when we say this prayer of asking God to spread a shelter of peace among all of us, what we're really doing is saying, create a tent in which all of us belong. Create a place in which there is love and understanding and peace and respect among us. Create a place in which we can walk hand in hand together, knowing that when we are one, we make the world whole and one. We sing words of Hashkivenu with the words, let there be love and understanding among us. These words can be found at the top of page 161. Adonai Elohim. understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storm. We continue our age-old conversation with God, connecting ourselves to generations past. We'll begin with the words of Adonai Sefatai Tiftach on page 164, and then we will continue praying silently until page 180. Please rise for the Amidah. Adonai Sefatai Tiftach ufi agi tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise. Page 180. Oh, say shalom lomar. Uyase shalom aleinu. Ve'al kol Yisrael. Ve'al kol take a moment and we turn our thoughts to all those loved ones in need of healing, of body, of mind, of spirit, those who may be recovering from surgery or are homebound, those who may be feeling just a little broken inside. May all of our voices be heard and give each and every one of us a sense of comfort and strength as we go on our way. As a congregation, we think of Danielle Purring, Eileen Linton, Joy Suskind, Lynn Weil, Dee Berkowitz, Sharon Schuff, Rebecca Stewart, John Wachowski, Charles Johnson, Bobby Schwartz, Libby Klinner, Chuck Campbell, Pam Rhodes, Deborah Linsky, Richard Zimmer, Renata Limmer. If there is a name that you would like to add on this Shabbat for our prayer for healing, I invite you to do so as my eyes meet yours. Baruch atah Adonai rofei et hakol, blessed are you, Adonai, who brings forth healing to all those who need it most. Our prayer for healing, Mishaberach, can be found on page 371. So not only are we thinking about all those loved ones who need wholeness, but we also are thinking about everyone who brings wholeness. If you have had a birthday in the month of April, I'd like you to rise so we can say happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, happy birthday, happy birthday. How does it all feel to be 16 again? And Rebecca, stay your age, please. Oh, there we go. It is wonderful to be able to celebrate with you on our Shehechi Anu Shabbat. And Shehechi Anu is also a celebration of all the other good things. So if there are other good things that you have experienced over April that you want to celebrate, I invite you to share it with the congregation and rise. Anything. It can be big, small, medium, in between. Nothing. All right, Eli.
I went to the convention in town this past week, and I got to meet quite a few actors, including Ron Perlman.
There we go. What else was good about the month of April? Yes, Josephine.
My husband's given command of a new squadron.
Woo! Mazel tov.
He likes it.
Vic,
Celebrated 12 years with my husband.
congratulations.
We shared a sheep.
What?
It didn't die.
It didn't die.
You shared a sheep, it didn't... Sheared.
As in got the wool.
I was like, do you share a sheep?
Well, we kind of shared the sheep.
You shared the sheep as you sheared it.
Yeah, it happens.
Yes. There's a book called Sheep in the Jeep.
There's photo evidence. I didn't really touch the sheep, but she did.
Well, you know, that sounds like it really just wasn't a bad month for you. Bad, huh? No, bad. Any other thing to celebrate? Yes, Stephanie.
Got a fifth nephew.
Mazel tov.
I got his cousin.
Thomas. Happy birthday! Happy birthday! Believe it or not, this was also the month we had Passover. We had an amazing Passover of 120 families here. We had an amazing month of Bible players. If you were here for Bible players, that was fun. So we had a lot of great things, and we have a lot to be celebrating. So we are all going to rise for our Shehechianu prayer so we can celebrate, and then we will make sure that we will dive ourselves into cupcakes, cookies, and tres leches at the end of our services for Oneg this evening in celebration of all of you and all of these special things. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shehechianu v'kimanu v'higianu lazman Please be seated. So I mentioned that this week's Torah portion is a double portion at the heart of the book of Leviticus, Acharei Mot Kedoshim. And here in this portion, we are given a very clear description of what it means to live a life of holiness. I said, don't place a stumbling block before the blind. Love your neighbor as yourself, leaving the corners of your fields for the poor. And our portion also gives us the foundation for how we can understand Lashon Hara, often translated as gossip. The commandment not to go about as a talebearer among your people, not to spread rumors or speak ill of another. But if we look more closely, gossip is not just about what is true or not true. It's not just about spreading rumors or speaking ill. But gossip is about what happens when we take someone's story and we make it smaller than it really is. When we take somebody's story and we decide to define it. When we pass along a version of someone that leaves no room for complexity, no room for dignity, no room for the parts that we don't see. And whenever that happens, something is lost. A person's voice is diminished. Humanity is reduced, and their story is no longer their own. And if we understand Lashon Hara in this way, I would argue that it becomes clear that it doesn't just happen between individuals, it happens in the public sphere too. Through the way certain voices are elevated and others are not. Through the way one version of religion begins to define what counts as religion for everyone. And as you know, this is something that I have shared a lot of concern about. We just saw it here in the push to place the Ten Commandments in public schools. But we are not just seeing it there. We're seeing it in statements coming out of the Religious Liberty Commission, where its chairman has said that the idea of separation of church and state is not real, and that it has been used to suppress religion rather than protect pluralism. We see it in the framing of the National Day of Prayer, gathering Americans under the theme, Glorify God among all nations. And we will see it in events like the National Jubilee of Prayer, Praise, and Thanksgiving at the end of May, described as an effort to rededicate America as one nation under God. Now, I've said this before, but this feels more urgent now. Any one of these things we could debate. But taken together, the story of what it means to be religious in this country starts to get defined by fewer and fewer voices. And when that happens, while people may not disappear, their voices do. And they will get pushed to the margins. And as Jews, we are still here in that story. But more and more often now as an afterthought, a footnote. An example somebody points to in order to say, see, we're inclusive, even when the framework itself hasn't changed. And for us, it lands in a very particular way because we know what it means to have our story told by someone else, to be misunderstood, to be flattened into something that we don't recognize, because so much of our Judaism is a refusal of that. The word zachor in Hebrew means to remember. But zachor isn't just about remembering what happened. It also means holding on to how a story is told. It means that we do not hand over our story. We don't let someone else define who we are. And our portion reminds us that this is not only collective, it is personal. Because every time we speak about somebody, we make a choice. We can reduce them, or we can leave space for those things that we don't know. And every time we engage in the world, we make that same choice. Do we accept a reality where one story defines everything, or do we insist on something where multiple voices can exist at the same time? And that doesn't mean that we avoid taking a stand. Because our portion says, do not stand idly by. There are plenty of moments that demand clarity and action. But even then, we ask, how? Can we act without stripping someone else of their humanity, without assuming that we know their story? Because if we don't tell our story, then there'll be a dominant one that will take its space. And not necessarily because it's truer, but because it's louder. But that's not the only story available. There is another story that we can choose to write. A story where religious life in this country is pluralistic, where no single tradition defines what faith looks like in public space, where a prayer offered publicly doesn't assume everyone shares the same theology, where being different is not just something to tolerate, but something that actually shapes how we understand community and belonging. And for us, a story where Judaism continues to speak in its own voice, where we don't translate ourselves to fit into somebody else's categories, where we teach our children not just how to survive as a minority, but how to do so with confidence and pride in who they are. When we show up publicly, not just to defend ourselves and our own stories, but to embrace a tradition that argues and questions and wrestles and insists on human dignity for everyone. One story says this is what religion is. You can fit into it if you try. The other says there are many ways to be in relationship with God, and none of them need to erase the others. If we do not shape the story, we will slowly find ourselves adjusting to someone else's. And if we don't choose our story, it will be chosen for us. And that's what our Torah portion has been asking of us all along. How we speak about one another, and whether we resist the urge to reduce others or refuse to carry stories about people that strip them of dignity, and whether we choose to show up in the world as Jews fully, unapologetically, and thoughtfully insisting that our voice and our story matters too. So our question is not about just what is happening around us. It's about the story that we are going to choose and be willing to claim. Which one we are going to be willing to live before it's too late. Shabbat Shalom. I'd like to invite up David Simon to share just a handful of announcements.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone,
Shabbat Shalom.
and happy April birthdays. Couple of announcements. Next Friday, May 1st, the Kalanu Teacher and Staff Appreciation Shabbat with Rabbi PJ and song leader Stephen Carini. Join us as we honor our volunteer teachers and staff who are doing a great job and who have been dedicating their Sundays to educating our youth and our community. And then the Friday after that, on May 8th, Shabbat services again with Rabbi PJ and accompanist Thomas Ballou. And this is pretty special. We will welcome Rabbi Jesse Paquin. Is that the brother of?
Rabbi Jesse Paquin, who is brother of Jeremy Paquin.
Yeah. So he's the brother of Jeremy Paquin, who's in our congregation here. And his wife, Shayna Paquin, who will introduce us to their organization, Sparks for Life, that advocates for and meets the needs of vulnerable populations in Sfat and its surroundings, providing solutions to challenges that arise through our close work with the elderly, disabled, single-parent families, children, and immigrants. We're excited to formally begin a partnership with them. So that should be neat.
Thank you. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
So we shift to our concluding prayers, and we are going to do Vahashivota, our version of Aleinu that reminds us that one of the things that we take to heart on this very day is that there are many expressions and understandings of God, and that there will be a day in which we will all be one and one at peace, even as we experience our own faith, tradition, belief differently. Because perhaps one nation under God means we are one nation with multiple understandings of God. We rise together for Vahashivota as our ark is opened. This is a repeat after me prayer. Please be seated. We turn our thoughts now to all those loved ones who no longer are with us, but will forever remain in our hearts and in all that we do. On the Shabbat as a congregation, we think of Adele Dorman, Henry Marks, Jerry Nelson Petticourt, Louis Hirsch, Minnie Lee Lindy, Emmanuel Melvin Halpern, Julius Bauer, Lila Rasnick, and Molly Moses Bear. If there is a name that you would like to add on this Shabbat, I invite you to do so as my eyes meet yours.
Kathy Halligan.
Supporting those who mourn and in the memory of the martyrs of our people, we rise together for Mourner's Kaddish on page 598. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei rabah, be'amad yivrach yutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayachon u'v'yomechon u'v'chayei d'chol Beit Yisrael, b'agalau v'izman kari v'yimru amen. Yehei shemei rabah mevarach le'olam almei almaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yipa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitalei v'yitalal shemei d'kudashah b'richu, le'olam min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, damiran me'alma v'yimru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'yimru amen. Osei shalom b'imromav, hu ya'aseh shalom. Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al kol yoshvei tevel v'yimru amen. May the source of peace and peace to all who mourn, and may the source of comforts and comfort to all who are bereaved, to which we say, amen. Please be seated. We take a moment to also remind ourselves of the sweetness of our lives and the sweetness of Shabbat. David, do you mind joining me for Kiddush? Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu, v'shabbat kodsho v'avahu v'ratzon hinhilanu, zikaron l'maaseh v'reshit, ki hu yom techila l'mikra'e kodesh, zecher l'tziat Mitzrayim, ki vanu b'charta v'otanu kidashta mikol ha'amim, v'shabbat kodshecha v'ahava uv'ratzon inchaltanu. Baruch atah Adonai v'kadesh ha-shabbat. Amen. L'chaim. I'd like to invite up all those who are young and young at heart to join me for Motzi. We will then conclude with Sir Shalom Rav on page 178, and I want to thank Stephanie Perry and Michelle Bruman for contributing to our oneg with a lot of sweets and cheeses and cupcakes. Okay, I need your help. Hamotzi lechem min haaretz, we give thanks to God for bread. Our voices rise in song together as our joyful prayer is said. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen.
That's big.
It's all for you. Wait a second. There you go. Hey, do a favor for me. Go give this to your mom. We rise On page 178 for Shalom Rav, for our closing song. Shalom Rav, Al Yisrael Amecha, Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav, Al Yisrael Amecha, Tasim Leolam. Ki atahu melech hador, Dehu hashalom. Ki atahu melech hador, Dehu hashalom. Shalom Rav, Al Yisrael Amecha, Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav, Al Yisrael Amcha, Tasim Leolam. V'tov beinecha levarech et Amcha Yisrael bechol עת ובכל שעה בשלומך. Shalom Rav, Al Yisrael Amcha, Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav, Al Yisrael Amcha, Tasim Leolam. Tasim Leolam. Tasim Leolam. Shabbat Shalom.
ourselves and among